surgeons keep our hearts beating. They do the amazing, help save lives, and so can you. Your CSL plasma donation can help create 24 critical life-saving medicines that can give Grandpa the chance for his heart to swell when he meets his new grandson, or give a bride the chance for her heart to skip a beat on her wedding day. Every plasma donation helps more than you know. Do the amazing. Help save lives. Donate today at your local CSL Plasma Center and be rewarded for your generosity.
So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge gravitationally bound systems of stars rotating around a supermassive black hole.
And the phone is free?
When you switch to Boost Mobile.
Cool. You lost me at gravitationally bound.
Switch to Boost and get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power. Limited time offer while supplies last. New customers only. Excludes tax. One device offer per line. Only available on certain networks. 5G not available everywhere. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
Science proves quality sleep is vital to your mental, emotional, and physical health. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and automatically adjusts to help keep you both effortlessly comfortable. And it's temperature balancing, so you stay cool. So you're at your best for yourself and those you care about most. Life-changing sleep, only from Sleep Number. The Queen Sleep Number 360 C2 smart bed is only $899. Save $200, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of an LG wash tower with ultra-large capacity, serving up a powerful yet gentle clean in just 29 minutes. Making this the sound of savings on the best appliance brands. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off the LG wash tower with ultra-large capacity and reduced wash time. Pricing valid January 5th through January 25th, 2023. Gas dryer extra. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
People say I ain't no good, and I'm crazy as a loon. Cause I shave my head in the morning, pick guitar in the afternoon. Just like old Chief and Charlie, I like to lay around in the shade. Well, I ain't got no money, but you better believe I got it made. Cause I ain't asking nobody for nothing if I can't get it on my own. If you don't like the way I'm living, just leave this bald-headed country boy alone.
Well, folks, we're going to add a new feature to the show. It's called Artist of the Month. And our artist that is sponsoring the show this month is a good buddy of mine, Mr. Aaron Tanner. I need y'all to go look him up on all his social medias. Aaron Tanner Music on Instagram. Aaron Tanner Music on Facebook. AaronTannerMusic.com. His TikTok, surprise, Aaron Tanner. My dude likes to mix gospel and some honky-tonk music. I've had him in the studio a couple times. He's a cool dude, so y'all please go check him out. If any of y'all are interested in booking him, email him at BATanner, TANNER, 89@gmail.com, or call him at 912-246-4977. Aaron Tanner is our Artist of the Month for January 2023. How about some cowboy stuff? My buddy, old friend, Chris Sapp, owner of Desperado and Company, over at the Puller Tanger Outlet Mall. They are in Suite 611. They offer all kind of Western wear, boots, toddlers, youth, women's, men's, everything. They have Ariat wallets, phone cases, men and women's jewelry, Montana silversmith, belt buckles, Ariat belts for men. They offer clinch. Ariat and Wrangler are their main brands of clothes. Lots of exotic boots. Guys, I saw some of the stuff that they're bringing me and some of the stuff I get to try on. Let me tell you, there's a lot of great Western wear places that are up in Nashville that I get to go to. This place compares to every single one of them. So what I need you guys to do is look up Desperado and Company, Chris Sapp. Their phone number is 912-604-0389. Go check them out. Get all turquoise the hell up. Get all westerned up. Look like a cowboy, cowgirl. Western fashion is the coolest shit to me, by the way. And the fact that they're on board as a sponsor now, I can't wait to try on some of the stuff that he has sent me and everything that they have sent me in pictures to get my size in. Dude, it's all banging. It's all awesome. So look up Desperado and Company now. Mr. Chris Sapp, once again, the Puller Tanger Outlet Mall, Suite 611. Now, a couple days ago, I did a show with Miss Lori from Lori's Dive-In over in Alamo. She brought me and Gracie all types of food, even a keto pizza, a cauliflower pizza. I've never ate anything like that before in my life. And let me tell you, it was banging. The wings were amazing. She does this special mix-up with lemon pepper and buffalo, and it's out of this world. Her wings are cooked better than almost any place I've ever been. So what else did she bring us? She brought us fried Oreos. She brought us fried pickles. The barbecue was awesome. The hamburger was banging. When you go there too, folks, you can go back and listen to the whole episode between me and her. Her staff is awesome. You feel like you're at home. It's just the best little place around. I know whenever we go through Alamo or I'm going down 16, I'm going to divert myself to go get lunch there. Y'all please go check her out. Her phone number is 912-568-1645. It's on Commerce Street over in Alamo. You can't miss it. It's Lori's Dive-In. Go get fed good. Go get treated good. You're not going to get better service from better people anywhere around here. So go check her out now. Let me tell you guys about the baddest insurance agent around these parts, Miss Jenna Carr. She's an Alpha insurance agent. She handles home, auto, life, and business. She's located in Macon, Georgia at 3312 Northside Drive, Suite C160. Let me tell you about Miss Jenna. Not only is she just the sweetest, cutest damn thing you ever seen, but she takes care of business like a true professional. I love dealing with her. She's done got me hooked up with life insurance because, let's be honest, I'm going to need it. And every time I've ever dealt with her, a complete pleasure. So, y'all do me a favor now. Give her a call and go look her up on social media. Jenna Carr, Alpha Insurance Agency. And that phone number in Macon is 478-621-7065. Tell her that you need the same package, home, life, auto, all that good stuff that she hooked me up with. Thank y'all for listening to the Josh Terry podcast. When I tell y'all I am excited and I am over the moon today, I've got Miss Georgette Jones talking to me right now. And I'm telling you, like, I don't blush anymore. And you've got me blushing. You got me just smiling my fat ass off. I am just over the top with this. Thank you for taking time to do this today.
I really appreciate you inviting me. So it's going to be fun.
The second you added me back on Facebook when I sent you a friend request, I was like, there's no way in hell that she is going to message me back when I ask her about doing a show. There's no way. And you messaged me back so fast. I was just, it was a great day.
Well, I was excited to do it. So like I said, this will be fun. We'll have a good time.
Yes, ma'am. Well, y'all have got a lot going on right now with the show and everything, don't you?
Yeah, it has really been pretty crazy these last couple of months. Crazy in a wonderful way, but definitely crazier than I'm used to. So a lot of traveling. always traveled, but not for things like this. I mean, this was my first big like LA premiere, and then we did something in New York, and we had a special event in Nashville when it was starting off the series. And it's just been such a long time coming that I think you kind of feel like it's never going to get here. 11 years later, suddenly it's here. And there's just been so much. And I never could have predicted how people were going to react. I was really worried about it. And I didn't get super nervous until right before it was coming out. And then I was like, oh, I hope everybody gets out of this what I want them to get out of this. And people have just overwhelmingly been very positive. There's always naysayers, but that's okay too. People have opinions, but it's really been overwhelmingly positive, and we're just thrilled.
I'll tell you, my happiest moment with the show was when I found out they wasn't going to make a movie out of it. It was going to be like a mini series, because I didn't think, as much as I like Walk the Line, and I'm not the biggest Johnny Cash fan, but I do like Johnny Cash. I didn't want it to be. It seemed like there was so much to tell. There's so much story. I was so glad that it didn't end up being a 2-hour movie.
Me too. I mean, because to be honest, everybody, I think people's mindsets have changed a lot in the last decade, thankfully. With the way technology has gone with smart TVs and so many streaming services, it's gotten to where it's not that stigma. Used to, you were either a big star and so you made only movies. You didn't lower yourself to make TV shows. That was showing how your career was ending. That's just kind of like what people used to say and think so long ago. But it's not like that anymore. The biggest stars are making the coolest streaming shows. They really are high quality. They're so good. More people are able to watch at home. So when we went from potential movie to this, at first, I wasn't really sure what to think. I was a little bit nervous about it. And then the more I talked to Abe Sylvia, who is the head writer and so incredibly nice and talented, he's like, we finally have some breathing space. Like he actually pitched it as a 5-season series, which I wish
much that
they would have done that. Yeah, we could have gotten into so much more detail and showed so much more and given some backstory and things as well. It would have been a lot better if we could have done that. However, I think there have been a few things that had come out that they were leery about doing biography-based style things, and they weren't sure if it was going to be well received. And my mind, I'm thinking, they don't know country fans. Like, country fans are the best. Like, they really are loyal, and they do want to watch, and they do participate. And mom and dad's fans have always been so amazing. And so I think now maybe there's some people kicking themselves, wishing that they had done more. And I certainly wish we could have, but who knows? Maybe there'll be such an overwhelming response we can talk them into doing some prequels or something else. Who knows? But that would be a big dream and wish.
I think they'll have to. I do. I mean, I know that they're telling the story very well at what they're doing, but there's times it's like I wanted a little bit more. Like but I get it. I mean, it's be so hard to pack in their life, their whole life.
Yeah, and in 6 episodes, because technically with certain services showing commercials, it's usually around 45 to 47 minutes. So when you think about 6 episodes and only about 45 minutes each, it still doesn't add up to maybe what double a movie would have been, which is still great, but so much life to talk about and to tell about, and so little time to tell it in. But I do think that Abe Sylvia, so incredibly talented, that he was able to really pull it all through and bring us all along in a quick route to get to the end of the story. But he did a great job.
The only criticism I have about the whole show is Jessica. She sings the Tammy songs very well, but old dude, I can't ever remember his name. It always Michael. Yeah. When he does the George songs, he just doesn't do them justice. That's the only, but who can sing like George Jones? There's nobody.
Because see, for me, it's like, I've talked to a lot of people who worked with mom and dad, industry people, family, a lot of different people. And that has always been our biggest concern, was how is this going to go over? There's going to be those who are going to be like, oh, they're great. And then there's going to be those who are like, oh my God, that sounds nothing like whoever. And the way we decided, and we talked about it, was there's not a single person on this planet who's going to be able to sing like mom or dad, not truly capture all that. And it was so important for us to get the right actors and actresses to portray their story. That was the main focus. And we thought, hopefully what this will do is people will hear this and then they're going to want to run out and go listen to mom and dad's stuff and actually hear the real deal, which you can hear anywhere on any platform now. And we wanted it to be more visually emotional and realistic by watching them do their own vocals, because they sang live on every take at everything that they did. And I thought it was pretty brave of them to do, considering the shadows that, they were standing in to try to accomplish what they did. But like, no one's ever going to sound just like mom or dad. But I think they both did a really good job considering all they had to try to pull off.
I love the old, it's either Waylon Jennings or Merle Haggard quote. I can't remember exactly which one of them said it, but it was, they were asked one time, if you could ever sing like anybody, who would it be? And they said George Jones, because there's nobody on the planet that could ever sing like George.
That was Waylon.
Yeah, hey, I knew it was. Yeah. I knew it was one of them.
And Waylon, gosh, he was such a wonderful man and such a good friend to both my parents. But he and Dad were awfully close, and so many stories my dad told me. And to be honest, I hate to say it, there's only a handful of people that you can point out and go, they were true and real people and good to my parents, and they weren't in anything for any other reason but friendship. And Waylon is definitely on that list. He was a wonderful man.
What was it like growing up around all these people that I idolize? I mean, everybody idolizes. I mean, it had to be an interesting childhood, to say the least.
Well, interesting is definitely a word that could describe it. There's lots of words, I guess. But to be honest, I think when I was younger, my sisters and I, like we had no idea how different our life really was. We just didn't know. They were mom and dad to us. You know what I mean? I got in trouble. I'd have to, do chores. I had things, I thought I had the same kind of life everybody else did. Sorry, hang on.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm crazy at a store. Get my husband help out.
You take your time.
Sorry. Oh, okay. I think it's Amazon. It's repackaged. So, hey, real life happens.
Yeah, it happens. It's fine.
And now I got all sidetracked. But basically, when we were younger, these people were mom and dad's friends. They were their coworkers. They were other artists. We'd go to the Opry, and it was like going to their business office. And it's so funny. We were so casual about it back then because we didn't understand any significance to anything. Like, we just didn't understand what we were surrounded by. And I very distinctly have memories of being in the studio. Here's Billy Sherrill, genius, brilliant. I should have soaked up every second, every moment of watching what he did. But I'd be there after school doing my homework, sitting on the couch behind the studio board. And when I would be done, I'd be laying there thinking, they're singing that song for like the 23rd time. I'm so tired of hearing this. When am I going to get to go home? And meanwhile, I could have been sitting in a chair next to Billy Sherrill, watching what he was doing and taking it all in. But hindsight, when I look back, I do, of course, realize how special it was that we got to meet so many incredible artists, so many people. We traveled and went to amazing places, and it really was a wonderful experience, that part of it. There was a lot of other hard things too that people go through, but for the most part, I think we didn't know what we had or what was going on around us until we were much, much older.
It blows my mind that these people are like aunt and uncles to you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sitting here imagining. That is just, it was so normal. It was just so normal for Merle or Waylon or somebody to come in and just be like, "What's up, Unc?"
Yeah. And I tell you what, the Loretta Lynn, absolutely one of the most incredible people on this planet. And I mean, aside from the obvious amazingness of who she was as an artist, she was definitely one of the most down-to-earth, sweet, kind, loving, funny, just one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And she really was such a great friend to my mom. There were times, I will tell you this very quickly. There was a time I saw Loretta a few years back, and I went to go see her. It was actually a horrible occasion. Her daughter had passed away, and we went to the funeral, and we went to her home after to see her. And the first thing she said when she saw me, gave me a big hug, was, "We sure do miss your mommy, don't we?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, we sure do." And we sat down and she talked to me about my mom for probably an hour. And, it was just really sweet talking to her. And she was telling me about how one time my mom had gotten sick. She had to go to the hospital. And while she was there, she knew that she wasn't going to be able to do some of the things she wanted to do. And which, by the way, at that time was, can't smoke in the hospital. Mom was a smoker back then. So she's trying to open windows and blow smoke out the window. And she wanted to talk to her friend Loretta. So mom actually ended up getting a cab from the hospital. She snuck out of her room, went and got a cab, had them take them all the way to Hurricane Mills to Loretta's house. She shows up at Loretta's door at like almost midnight. And of course, Loretta, she's like, of course, I let your mom in. There she is in her nightgown. And she's like, I got to take a couple-hour break from the hospital. I want to come see you and talk to you for a little bit. I can't take it anymore. So she's like, well, come on in. So they sat and talked for a while. And then mom went back to the hospital and checked herself back in and did whatever she had to do. But Loretta was one of her most favorite people and best friends. And she will always have a special place in our heart for that reason.
Oh, my gosh. That is precious. I'm having a hard time coming up with things to talk to you about because I just want to talk to you.
Don't worry about it.
I want to hear stories like that. It's crazy. Your mom, to me, the more that I've learned about her in the past couple years, it's the same thing with. I used to not like Willie Nelson's music because of his voice, right? And it took me getting older and appreciating it.
Right.
I've always liked George, but with Tammy, it's been the same thing. Is I didn't get it as a younger male, but now I'll sit here and listen to her stuff. And she had a bunch of how do I say this? A bunch of I don't give a damn in her songs.
Yeah, she really did.
And that story right there just makes it she was what she sung, I guess is what I'm saying. She didn't give a damn, and I love that about her.
Yeah, and she, it was really funny because I think that's one reason too why mom admired certain people in the industry more than others is because she knew what they were really like, and she loved them so much for being so real and for being so spirited. Tanya Tucker, Loretta Lynn. I mean, they were certainly some of her favorite people, and she would talk all the time about how she wished she could get away with some of the stuff Tanya said and got away with. She's like, I say what I think most of the time, but I can't say it all. She's like, but Tanya just says it. So she admired her for just being herself, and whenever she thought something, she wasn't afraid of what anybody thought. She was just herself.
Tanya Tucker, to me, is one of the most underrated artists ever. Yeah. I don't understand why she doesn't get more acknowledgement than she does. It's almost like people just know Delta Dawn, and they don't dive into the rest of her stuff. And it's like that song, "I Wish I'd Known the Man a Little Better That Turned My Mom On."
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fantastic songs. And as a matter of fact, from the time I was 3 years old until I was about 12, I sang Delta Dawn. Mom would always call me out, or dad would, and I'd sing Delta Dawn.
Oh, that's so cool.
Sing Teddy Bear, but usually it was Delta Dawn.
By Red Servine?
No, the other one, I Wish I Was a Teddy Bear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm having a brain fart right now. Oh my gosh, I can't believe and I can't even think who's saying it now just because. And that's a terrible thing. I'm an awful person. So I'll try to think of it in a minute.
It's okay.
But anyway, but most of the time I sang Delta Dawn. And then, so when I turned 12, I remember telling Mom, I want to sing, I want to sing something else. Can I do something different? And she's like, well, yeah, find something that you like and we'll get the band to work it up. We'll see what it is. So I started thinking about it, and so I come to Mom and I tell Mom I don't know if you're familiar with this song or not, but I told her I wanted to sing Tanya's song "Feel Right."
I don't know I don't know that one.
You'll have to go look it up.
I will. I'm downloading it. I'm downloading it right now.
I'm telling you, it's hilarious because my mom was like, "No, you're 12 years old. You cannot sing that song." And at 12, I didn't get it. I was like, what's the big deal? It's just a song. So what? And she's like, my 12-year-old daughter is not going to be singing those particular words. I mean, it was a very sexy song. We'll just
okay.
So Mom was like, no. And so I ended up, she didn't give me a choice then, since I didn't pick good songs. It wasn't about being a good song, but appropriate songs. Yeah. And so she ended up telling me I could sing Country Roads. So I ended up singing Country Roads for a few years after that, till I was old enough to sing something a little more grown up.
So I guess after George and Tammy split and they were still performing together, that's when you were old enough at that point, because you're their only child, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm the only one between the two of them.
Yeah, go. So that's when, I guess that time period is when you would go on stage with them, is like the years after they divorced, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 70. They were together till early 75. And
Okay.
so I started singing at 3. So it was probably when I was about 4 or 5 years old when they divorced. Yeah, I guess I was not quite 5 when they
Yeah.
divorced. And so I would either sing with mom most of the time. There were a few occasions when I was a little bit older, like around 13 and 14, I sang some with my dad, and I got to travel and see him a little bit then. And he always liked me to do the Linda Ronstadt song. And I'm trying to think of There You Go, and Baby, Here Am I Where You. I'm trying to think of the title and I can't. But it was such a great song, and he loved that. So he didn't even want me to sing. He wanted me to sing that song. So, but it was always such a pleasure to be able to sing with either or both of my parents. I loved it.
Was the stories that you hear about him not wanting to perform? I'm not talking about him not showing up. I don't care about that. I love the stuff that I've read that he didn't want to be on stage.
No. Dad wanted to sing what he wanted to sing, when he wanted to sing it, where, for who. Like for him, he would have been happier at a honky tonk with no one having any clue who he was, just singing, Lefty Frizzell and, Roy Acuff and Hank Sr. And like he would have been happier doing that. And it's so funny because we talked about the series. One of the things about it that I felt really happy that they showed accurately. Mom felt like she worked her whole life to get where she wanted to be, to try to get to Nashville, and like that was like the goal to get there. And all Dad wanted to do was get out of it. Like he just wanted to get as far away as he could, but yet he still knew he had to make a living. He still knew he had to do stuff, and music was the way he was going to do it. But it was just that not his thing. Like he loved to sing and he loved to perform, but he hated all the attention that he got and a lot of the other stuff that goes along with being well known. And that was a lot harder on him.
For some reason, I just think that is the best thing ever. Of all the artists and everything that I'm around, and you as well, it's just like everybody's dying to get on that stage.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the big stage. It's like I compare George to like an actual painter, like an actual artist that just wants to create the art, put it up in a museum, and then not go ever look at it or mess with it again. And that's how I see him. I feel like he, like you said, he knew what he had to do to make a living, but he didn't care.
No. And that was a good thing, but it was also to his detriment a lot. You know what I mean? Because like he made a lot of people mad. I know he pissed off a lot of people, but at the same time, I know that he struggled with that, and I think that had a lot to do with why he drank and why he did what he did, because he actually never drank growing up. My grandfather was a terrible alcoholic, and he was not the most pleasant man to be around. My dad had a very difficult childhood for that reason. And so he never really, wanted alcohol. And when he started singing in the bars and stuff and started really getting going and people liked him, he realized how nervous he was to have to stand up in front of people and do that. And he was also struggling in the beginning with, am I going to sound like Hank Sr.? Am I going to try to sound like Roy Acuff? Because those were his heroes, but yet he knew he also needed to be himself. And that was hard for him. He was scared to just put that out there and be himself. And so people would buy him drinks because they liked his music. And so he started taking them because he realized, oh, well, 1 or 2 drinks is all right, but 3 or 4 makes me not nervous anymore. And I just can just do what I do then. And so that is kind of how all that started. But it all goes back to him being so nervous about really having to be in front of people to do what he loved singing, but he didn't love so much about how people directed it very personally to him.
We talk about anxiety, depression, a lot of mental health awareness on the show. A lot of it with veterans and stuff. We have a lot of those organizations on here. And I've always thought that how'd I put it? Back in the day, I think and I'll ask you because I shouldn't say I think because I don't want to like say that he had it or whatever. But in my opinion, that's what I think George was going through. I think that he was probably one of the first artists that had anxiety and depression.
Absolutely.
And whatever. It just wasn't diagnosed or nobody gave a damn back then. And that's why I've always thought with like the no-show stuff, I think that's just a bad rap. I don't like it. I think that it's funny, and I think that he's an outlaw and a badass because he didn't show up sometimes because he didn't want to. But
Yeah.
I also think it was like anxiety, depression, mental health stuff that
It
he was
was.
going through.
And there were times where you'd find him 20 minutes outside of the huge theater he was supposed to be playing in, whatever amphitheater or whatever. I mean, he'd be at some dive bar and people would be hooting and hollering, can't believe that he's there with 20 people in there singing and drinking and hanging out with everybody, because he wanted to do that rather than put himself up, on the big stage. And like you said, it's a shame that we didn't have more support for people back then. And I'm glad that you do talk a lot about mental health. I was a registered nurse for 17 years, and that is a platform I would scream about if anybody would listen, for a long time, because it's been a very big deal in my family, myself, so many people that I know. And I wish that we would spend more time trying to help people with that. It's just as important as someone with high blood pressure getting help to prevent stroke. So
no shit. I've got both of them, high blood pressure and anxiety.
I got you now.
It had to be, speaking of that, like it had to be kind of a huge weight on you growing up, being their child. I'm sure that everybody just had so much pressure on you as being the next Tammy or the next George or whatever. I'm sure you had a huge weight on your shoulders growing up.
As I got older, the more I felt it. When I was really little, I didn't even understand what was going on. Like I'd go on stage and sing, and they sang, and it didn't seem scary at all at first. But then I started hearing all the stories, whether I was supposed to hear them or not. You know what I mean? I'm hearing people talk, and they were talking about, I mean, literally the day I was born, Billy Sherrill sent like 12 dozen roses and a contract to my parents, basically saying, just make sure she's got to sign this when she turns 18. Like, you know what I mean? And so it was, I knew that was there, but somewhere around, I think 7 or 8, I realized people were paying attention, because then I would hear people say, oh, how cute. She phrases a little bit every now and then like her dad, or, oh, she hit that high note and that reminds, she must have got that from her mom or whatever. But it started making me think about it. And I'm like, oh, people are comparing me. You know what I mean? And I got to where when mom would call me out, I'd be so anxious. Like I'd just be like, ugh. And I'll tell you a story. One of my most embarrassing moments as a kid, of course, you're a kid, but I was probably 8 years old, and I had traveled to Europe with my mom. She was doing a big tour over there. And so we were in Germany at a military base, huge military base. Mom was doing a show there. And first of all, I'm a tomboy, so I always hated it when mom would dress me in these super frilly, dresses and patent leather shoes and all that stuff. So I was already uncomfortable. But I remember that's probably the first place I really started paying attention and hearing and noticing people were like talking about me. And I didn't like that. And I remember not knowing when mom was going to call me out. So when she did, I got so nervous. The first thing I thought of was, oh, I've got to go pee. Like, how when you get nervous, especially as a kid. So I remember going up and like tugging on her dress and her leaning over me, whispering in her ear, because I don't want to say on the microphone, hey, got to go to the bathroom. So I'm telling mom, can I come back and sing in a minute? And it was all just because I was terrified to get up there and sing it all. And so she's, oh, sure, honey, it's fine. And as I'm walking off the stage, she tells the entire auditorium, she'll be back in a few minutes. She has to go to the little girl's room. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe mom just told, thousands of people that, I'm going to do that. But I got very nervous at that point from then on. And I was probably, I guess I was 27 when mom passed away. And it was after that before I finally got comfortable to sing. Like I sang here and there for a few things when I felt like I had to or I was supposed to. And I always loved singing and writing, but it made me so nervous. And I finally, a switch clicked, and I thought, I don't care anymore. Like if somebody hates the way I sing, that's okay. There are people who hate Elvis and who hate Whitney Houston's voice and who hate all these other, that's okay. Everybody's not going to like the same thing. And I had to stop worrying about people comparing me. And so it kind of took maturity and getting a little older. And then it still took me probably another decade to develop confidence on stage to try to feel comfortable doing it. So I can't imagine my mom and dad having that kind of anxiety and then being thrust in front of hundreds of thousands of people and having, the media attention and all the other stuff that they had to go through. So I saw it a teeny little level compared to what they had to deal with.
Well, Tammy, did she love the stage? Did she love the being in front of everybody?
Yes and no. Like, I think she loved performing. Like and I'll tell you what happened with that, really, to be honest. Let me backtrack a little bit. She started off, of course, on the Country Boy Eddie show. And she always knew she wanted to sing. She always thought Nashville was her goal. She really wanted to do that. But when she started singing on the Country Boy Eddie show, there was a time when she actually told the piano player there, she wished that there was a surgery they could do to cut out her terror and her fear of like being in front of people. She's like, I love to sing. I don't want to do it in front of anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to not do that. And Country Boy Eddie actually had to tell her, please don't make me fire you to make you go to Nashville. Like, you need to just go. Like, I don't want to be the guy who fires you that makes you like, now you don't have a choice. So like, please just go. And if you watch some of those early recordings on Hee Haw, it's pretty funny because you can see, and this was me in that video with Dad when I was like 10 years old. It's like this. Just you're singing and you're just kind of looking at the camera and there's like no expression. And it's just kind of like Mom, you can tell she looked terrified in the late 60s. But she finally did a thing where a guy came and helped her put some of her songs together in like an actual show. She knew what point of the stage to go to, what she was going to try to say then, how she was going to, open up to the next song. And it became more of a rehearsed play for her. It kind of gave her a way to figure out how to connect without having to worry so much about what am I going to say? What am I going to do? Where am I going to walk? Like, how am I going to do a good job? And it took some of that nervousness out, and she felt more confident. And you can tell that she felt so much more confident after that part when she started learning how to do that.
That's cool. Excuse me. I don't know if you know this. I read this yesterday when I was kind of prepping for this or whatever. Did you know that your dad and Conway Twitty are the only two artists to have a number one in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? They're the only artist ever.
I think that's so cool. And because first of all, like Dad and Conway were great friends, and Conway was an amazing artist. I mean, and he did rock and country music. So what an amazing artist. But yeah, that's so weird. It's like when you hear things like that, I kind of have to I'm like, that's my dad. How cool is that? It's like just a really amazing thing to accomplish. And two people have accomplished it. I'm really proud for sure of my dad.
Yeah, I people get mad at me at my studio all the time because there's two artists that get played on repeat here, and it's your dad and Keith Whitley.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's it. Like this is gonna sound super weird when I'm about to tell you, super weird. So don't freak out on me. But like I had to do a wheel recently, like just because I'm 35 and life insurance and all this kind of stuff. People's got me thinking about mortality and all this kind of shit.
Gotta be a grown up at some point, a little bit.
so like I had to put like what I wanted to do when I die or whatever, like being cremated and all this kind of stuff. And everybody thought I was bullshitting, but I literally have in my will now that when I die, I want some of my ashes scattered at my grandparents' grave, and then I want some at your dad's and some at Keith Whitley's. And they were like, why? And it's like, because nobody understood it. And I was like, because I want to hear the music for all eternity. Like that's so like it's one of those things to where I just never stop playing his music, and people come in here and they're like, oh, I thought we were gonna party. I thought we were gonna hang out. And they're like, I'm tired of hearing sad songs. And your dad had the ability to make a sad song the best song, which I love sad songs. I don't like
That's me.
I don't like happy music whatsoever. Like
if I could do the next album, like I would pick all slow ballads because that's what I love to sing. It's my favorite thing in the world. When I'm trying to do any tribute shows and stuff for Mom and Dad, I do the bigger hits that are faster, and I try to get some of those in there. But it's like if I just had my druthers, as my Mima would say, I would just fill a set list full of ballads. So I get that.
what is and I'm not going to ask you your favorite from your mom and dad. What's like some of your all-time favorites from them?
I always say with my dad, Walk Through This World with Me.
Yes.
One of the best ever. And if I had to pick a fast one, and the reason why I pick it is for sentimental value, because my children, I have twin boys, and when they were little, we had to drive like 45 minutes one way to get them to school every day. And so we would listen to this one radio station. And I hope my friend Bear O'Brien's out there listening, because he worked at a Columbus radio station back in the day. And he was awesome. That's how we actually met, was through my kids calling and requesting their grandpa's song all the time. And
That's
he
cool.
found out who they were, and he just thought it was hilarious. And so, but they would always want to hear either Love Bug, or we called it the Corvette song, the one I love back then, because they just thought that was the funniest thing they ever heard. And they loved how he would, dip down and do all that. But Walk Through This World With Me is my personal favorite. Duet wise, Take Me. My dad, of course, recorded that solo. That was a song he co-wrote, and he did it then as a duet with my mom, and it's always been my favorite duet. And I like some of the other things like Southern California and like some of the fun stuff that everybody loves, the fast things. They're great, but like I always go back to those slow ballads, and with the exception of one. And most people associate it with other artists because back in the day, I think lots of people would record the same song. It wasn't like it is today. But have you ever heard Something to Brag About?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something to brag about. I'm putting it on you for homework.
Okay.
Don't worry, there will be no test. I won't bother you. But Something to Brag About is one of my favorites, and it's because there's a line in there where they're just really getting at it, and they're talking about we'll feast on cornbread, butter beans, and lunch meat. Now, if that's in a song and they sing it, that's hilarious, and so I love that so much. But Mom, Till I Can Make It on My Own, Till I Get It Right. And I always loved One of a Kind and Another Lonely Song, all slow songs. So like, another thing, like I just go down that road. If I'm in that mood, I'll just list up the ballads. And
if you were to grab my phone and you were to put it on shuffle with your mom or dad, there's not a fast one. There's not. I think I've got like the fastest song that I have of them is Your Dad Is Old Red. I love your dad.
Yeah.
I love your dad's version of that.
It is great. And it's so funny too. Like when it came to the ballads, Dad used to always call them the sad slopping tear jerkers. That's what he called them. He's like, I always like the sad slopping tear jerkers. So he'd always tell me that. It was funny. So he's the same way. So I have to say I got that honestly from both my parents. They always emotionally connected to a song more when it was real like that. Emotional songs are the sad songs more so.
Well, let me ask you, what is it like knowing that your mom and dad both have like a top 10 song of all time with Stand By Your Man and then He Stopped Loving Her Today? I mean, everybody says that's the number one country song of all time, and I got to agree with them. Like, what is that like?
It's crazy weird. Like, I'm so proud. Like, it really is amazing. And like those songs have been archived in our nation's, like Library of Congress. Like that's one of the coolest things that I think about when I think about how my parents' music has become so iconic that our actual government has decided to archive those songs so that if ever a million years down the road someone wants to know what was going on back in the day, these were the things that they cataloged as to be something really special. That's just a really amazing thing, and I couldn't be any prouder.
Yeah, between He Stopped Loving Her Today, I think that is the greatest song of all time, regardless of artist or whatever. I'm sure Elvis has got something up there. I love Elvis.
You're fixing to get so many people sending you who the best and what the best is.
They can all kiss my ass because I know what the best is. I know what it is. He just, like, I guess where I'm from, growing up, we had to hear our grandparents listen to those songs. Then our dads and moms listen to those songs. And now I'm listening to those songs. And I've got an 11-year-old daughter that has to listen to your mom and dad all the time. And it's just like, how does that happen? Like, how does the music of someone like that? Because now you get an artist that's popular for at the most 10 years.
Yeah.
Like you don't get those.
Because it's cookie cutter stuff. It's not, I mean, my personal opinion, and I get a lot of people who we harp on it. I'll get online, and when we have chats and talks, I will go on and on about the state of country music today, or the lack thereof.
I'm with you. I get in trouble in that community all the time for running my mouth.
And I'm not saying that they're bad or like they're terrible artists or that all the songs are crap. There are definitely some songs that are crap. I'm not going to point them out, but there's definitely some that I'm like, how did that make it to radio?
Yeah.
But, my biggest thing is, my dad's biggest passion towards the end, and it used to really bother him so much. And I feel like it's kind of my job to keep pointing this out. Um, Country music has lost its identity.
Yeah.
It's not that we are mad about people evolving. If I hear that word one more time, I'm just going to have to, reach out and smack something. But it's like when you evolve, you still got to know where the roots come from. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've heard rock evolve my whole life, and I can still tell when I hear it on the radio, that's rock music. I'm not confused. I know exactly what it is. But when you hear something, and I'm actually looking at the radio station to see, did I stop on a different, I don't know what I'm listening to, and this is called country. There's a problem there. You don't get an apple seed and it turns into an orange. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like there should be room for everyone. We don't have to have cookie cutter success that everyone sounds the same and uses the same, clap tracks and the same whatevers, all that crap. It's so nice to think about, and I sound like such an old person, but I'm just going to say it.
No, you don't.
Organic way of getting in a studio when everybody played together and they did what they did best. They all created with their instruments and they figured out what the best feel was together, and they created history and they made really amazing music. And now they're dictated, you play this and you play that. No, I don't like that because that's not what I decided I wanted to hear. That guy probably doesn't even play whatever that instrument is, just saying. So, it's just, I miss the good old days of the Billy Sherrills, who knew which musicians to hire for the sound he wanted, and he allowed them the space and creativity to make it amazing. And I just don't think that happens as much anymore.
Well,
and I think it's a shame.
Well, I think people forgot that country music is not just music; it's a way of life. Like growing up, it was if you were a country kid, if you lived on a farm, if you lived on an old dirt road, you lived in a small little rural community or whatever, the songs that were sung were about where you were from. That's why you identify with the heartbreak, the hurt of country music is why you listen to it, because it's real life. And every once in a while, you still get someone who puts out a real life song, but for the most part, it's not real life anymore.
Yes, there's a few out there for sure. My personal favorites of anybody out there right now, I love Cody Johnson.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a God-loving, family-loving, country-loving, rope and rodeo guy who's the real deal, who actually sings in pitch and doesn't need auto-tune on stage. Do you know what I mean? Like I think he's fantastic. The Mo Pitneys, the people like that. I mean, I think they're so talented, and I'm just so proud that someone like Cody was able to prove this is right here is the cookie cutter we should be using.
Yeah, no
this
shit.
Is a man who made it in Texas, and if you make it, I'm telling you, you make it in Texas, they are the most loyal country fans. They still want to hear it. They still play it on the radio stations. They're not trying to, do what everybody else in country radio is doing. And he had such a great cult following. He was able to get whatever he wanted in Nashville. And I think that is so badass and awesome. I applaud him every day for that. And I wish they would allow more people that opportunity to show what they can do and what kind of audiences they can have. Because, I'm 52 years old. Not that country music is for people my age and, specifically, but I know that for me, I grew up buying the CDs and the albums and wanting to have the album art and wanting all the lyrics on the inside and all that cool stuff we used to do and get, and all that's been lost. And I feel like we lose so much more every day with technology for our music. And, I kind of feel like auto-tune is a cool thing if you use it for what it really was intentionally meant to do, for a tiny little tweak here or there, for the studio. But if you've got artists who really aren't that great and you're having to so tune them that they sound like T-Pain on their recordings on the radio, I think that's a problem. You know what I mean? I just feel like more people should be able to do what they do without all that extra help. I mean, isn't that kind of like doping? Isn't that like steroids and the Olympics?
No, I agree with you 100%. I don't like the state of, I got to watch how I say this because I've got a lot of friends that listen to this show that are in country music. And if you're one of my friends, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you, what I'm about to say, because I love y'all and I think y'all are great. But I think it changed from being the music business to when it turned over to the entertainment business. That's when we lost. Oh, yeah. That's when you lost just the heart and soul of it. And I'm telling you, I get mad about it every single day because this is a sad fact, but I think it is actual a fact. I don't think George makes it today in country music, and I
Oh, he
don't.
wouldn't.
And I don't.
And how does that happen? Yeah,
Yeah,
but he
that's what I'm
wouldn't.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's what I mean by I feel like people are missing out. I know
yeah.
right now I could probably tell you at least 10 different people that I have seen perform downtown or that I have worked with and that I know who have been busting their butts for a decade trying to
Yeah.
make it. And they are 10 times the singer of most of the people that I've heard on the radio. And I just find it incredibly sad that they're not able to be out there for everyone in the world to hear. It's their time to shine should be right now. But there's people like Daryl Singletary, who I
Oh,
felt
good
like
God, yes.
he just missed that sweet spot by a couple of years. Maybe if he'd gotten in there about 5 years quicker, he would have blown up as big as anybody you could imagine. I think he's also one of those that just missed that timeline just by a hair, and it's such a shame. But now you don't get that opportunity unless you look a certain part and have a story to sell. Dad's favorite line was to say, 30 years ago, Nashville was cowboys and carol girls with guitars on their backs, walking down Music Row, going to their writing appointments with their pad and pencils in their hand. Now there's just suits everywhere with briefcases who don't know anything about country music, just trying to sell it. And it's a shame that we've gotten to business instead of artistry.
I hope that it rolls back around. I don't see it rolling back around, but I sure as hell hope so, because every once in a while you'll get a song, you'll get somebody that just revitalizes it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I take pride in on my show is back when I used to work in radio, you would have your log or whatever with the top 40, whatever bullshit was on there. And it was not what the people were requesting. Like it was,
yeah.
It's just like, how does that happen?
We're too stupid to know what we like.
Yeah, exactly.
Radio
exactly.
dictate.
And now I'm hoping and praying that the people that are actually making country music, and I don't knock the other shit. I don't like it.
No, not at all.
But I think
there should be a place for everyone.
I think there should be a separate genre.
Yeah.
I think that there should be, this is traditional country music. This is what there shouldn't be a cutoff period of when country was country. Like from Hank Sr. to your dad, to Travis Tritt, to anybody that's still doing country music. Just say this is country music, and everything else, let's just label it something else. Let's just call it whatever the fuck you want to call it.
That's what Dad said. Call it new country.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
That doesn't sound good.
Paper shredder's jammed, but I think I fixed it.
Oh, well, try shredding these $50 bills then.
Seems like it's working.
Better try another $400.
Stop. Instead of using money, use regular paper. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about that sound? You're listening to a set of GE appliances, complete with all you need to keep food fresh, dishes clean, and everything else stress-free. Making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off select GE appliances right now. Offer valid January 5th through January 25th, 2023. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge gravitationally bound systems of stars rotating around a supermassive black hole.
And the phone is free?
When you switch to Boost Mobile.
Cool. You lost me at gravitationally bound.
Switch to Boost and get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power. Limited time offer while supplies last. New customers only. Excludes tax. One device offer per line. Only available on certain networks. 5G not available everywhere. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Or call it contemporary country, whatever you want to call it. But he's like, just give it another name, because it's not. Like if you've got all these, rock whatever in it, and someone's rapping half the song, and then you've got a steel guitar or a fiddle that's on there for like 5 seconds somewhere, just so you can say, hey, it's got steel guitar on it. That doesn't make it country.
Just
it makes it better probably, but it still doesn't,
I don't care what you call it, just don't call it country.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. I'm gonna have to write that down and write that later.
Yeah. Yes.
No, like and like he said, the rapping through it. There's like 3 people I can think of off the top of my head that, and it's not rapping, but it's talking through a song, and that was your
Right.
dad, Conway, and George Strait. Those are the only
Yeah.
3 people that if you're not singing, I could listen to them talk a whole damn song.
Yeah.
And,
Talking
and
used to be a thing. Like that's always been a little bit of part of country all
Yeah.
along, but it's been part of telling a story.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not anti-rap even. Just, rap is rap. You're not going to
Yeah.
hear mom or dad songs on a rap station. I'm pretty
No.
sure people listening to a rap station would be annoyed if you played Dolly Parton or Ray Stevens on it. I'm just saying, it wouldn't be their thing. So I don't understand why we're trying to embrace every other genre possible for the sake of supposedly trying to make money. I don't get it. Let's just be what we are.
It's like I don't think that country music is an exclusive club. So that's
Right.
probably what this is fixing to sound like. I'm going to sound like a bitter old bastard right here. But I don't think we have to take every other genre and mix it with country to make everybody feel happy or make
Right.
everybody feel like, oh, okay, you're involved or
Right.
what. I don't think like if you take your mom, your dad, the greats of country music, and you put them in today's world in Nashville, they don't make it. And that is sad.
Yeah.
That it doesn't make sense that you can have somebody rapping on a country or that stupid ass song. What was it? Old Town Road. I hate that song. And it came out while I was still working in radio. And I'm telling you, I used to have to cuss kids out. Like I'd be like, I'm not playing this shit on country radio.
I love country music. What's your favorite song? Old Town Road. Shut up.
Yeah, no, I've gotten a lot of trouble, about that. Yeah, it's sad. But also I was raised by people. I was raised by my whole family that listened to traditional country, and
Yeah.
it spoiled me. Even what's funny is back in the day, you used to have like an artist like Cher or anybody like this, and they would end up wanting to make country albums. Now you see people going from country music and saying, "Oh, I want to do pop," or I want to do whatever. Everybody used to want to be in country, but when they came to country, they did country. And
That's
now,
what I'm saying. Yeah. Ray Charles. Oh my gosh. Great country album. Amazing country albums. There's lots of people who have done country and done it justice, done a really great job singing country music. But like you said, it's not like you can't just call it country because you decided it is. It still has to actually have some type of recognizable country sound. And I'm cool for anybody singing whatever they want to sing. But, I just think when it comes to anything being played on the radio, I just know that actual country music's not going to be played on anything else. Yeah. And like hell, you can hardly get country music played on country radio these days. So it's hard enough.
It's funny you brought up Ray Charles because one of my favorite songs is with him and your dad, and it is "We Didn't See a Thing."
Yes, it's a great song.
My god,
it's fun.
And it's funny. It's funny that Ray Charles is singing it. Like it's just but that's what I just don't get why more people aren't trying to do the country thing. Like they want to do the image and all this other shit that they're trying to do in Nashville now. But one thing that I talk about a lot on this show, especially with artists, is are you trying to make $1 or are you trying to have a legacy? And I feel like with your family, it's legacy. Like you're the first princess of country music. Like your mom and dad are king and queen of country music. And I just don't think people view it as that anymore. I will always take somebody trying to have an all-time song. I would rather have those all-time songs that never get. Jamie Johnson is about the only guy that I can think of that just has said to hell with it. He's doing it his way. And he might go broke doing it. But he's never gave in.
And Alan Jackson has stayed true.
Oh, yeah. Alan
Absolutely,
Jackson
for sure. But not many, because most people start feeling the pressure from their labels or else they get dropped because of that. And that they, you got to go bro or go home or you got to go contemporary. It's like, no, you don't. Like my dad, and I'm so proud. That's one of the things that he said to Alan before he passed away. He actually told him, just whatever you do, please don't let anybody start pressuring you to do something different. Keep being yourself, keep making the kind of music you make. Because my dad, loved Alan and his music and thought that he was one of the few people still out there being true and being real with country. And I'm just so proud that he did that he has stayed true to himself the whole time.
It's not like I didn't already love Alan Jackson, but when I heard the story about how he was told not to play one of your dad's songs at one of the award shows, and then Alan goes on stage and does it anyway.
Best, most badass outlaw moment in the history of award shows, in my personal opinion. And my dad actually, like, he wouldn't even watch the award show. He was annoyed and through with it because at the time, what had happened, Choices had actually been nominated for a Grammy. And it was the song that they wanted him to sing on the CMAs. And basically, they decided they were going to only let him have 20 seconds. 20 seconds of his song is what they wanted Dad to sing. And normally Dad wouldn't have been as upset about it if other people were doing the same thing. There were a few people who were going to have to do their 20 seconds, but there were, I won't say who, but there were other artists there who were getting full songs with pop and rock artists to perform their crossover stuff, but yet they were going to give Dad 20 seconds. So in his mind, he was like, I'm not trying to sound cocky or arrogant or being rude, but if I can't sing my full song and we've got people from other genres doing stuff that's not even country, you just count me out. I'll stay at home. I don't want to bother with that. So he stayed at home and was literally, he had like a little sitting room off of his bedroom where he'd get in his pajamas and get back in his recliner and watch usually Matlock or Walk the Texas Ranger or Andy Griffith. So he would be watching TV, and literally Nancy was watching the award show in the bedroom, like next door. So when Alan went out there, started his song, but then stopped and did Choices. When it started, she jumped up and ran and told him. He's hurrying up trying to flip on the channel, but he just stood up and he was just like, he said that it made him so proud and just made him feel so good about the fact, number one, his friendship with Alan. He just thought Alan was amazing for doing that for him. But to see the audience's reaction as well, everybody was happy with that. And it was a big moment for my dad. It meant so much to him. And what was really funny was, if you watch, Alan just kind of leaving the stage when, it wasn't even like he was going to have anything to say about it. And there were certain people there who told him, you'll never be invited to a award show again. He's like, I don't care. Don't invite me. He went to his bus and he went home. Like, he didn't even stay for the rest of the award show. And that's a kind of loyalty that unfortunately I don't know that we see a lot of anymore. But I thought it was one of the coolest things I've ever witnessed. And I was so proud that happened for Dad.
Yeah, I'm telling you that. I love outlaws anyway. And I love anybody that does the shit their way. I mean, it's always blown my mind when you have somebody like that and they've made it to where they're at by being themselves, and they've made money and they've been successful. And then you try to change them. Then you try to critique them. Then you try to make them be who you want them to be. And it's almost like the people that do that, they always fail. Or they're never as because you're not being genuine anymore.
And we can, as a listener, you can hear that.
Oh, absolutely.
Someone's not singing what they're really wanting to sing, and it's not emotional for them. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Alan Jackson, so I know that it's a Hank song, but Blues Man.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, every time someone is around me and they ask to hear Blues Man, I always play George and Dolly.
Yes.
To me, that is the Blues Man. I don't know why more people don't know that they have that song cut. It's just perfect.
I agree. I'll tell you why they don't know. Dolly and Dad were not of the age that they wanted to push it. And that's a shame. Like, they would do minimal things like, oh, well, we have a contract. I guess we have to do this or that. We have to actually put something out somewhere. But no one would ever do all the follow-up they normally do with records and, all the grassroots stuff, trying to get things out there. And I remember being so proud of my dad. That was a very, very big moment for my dad and for me being proud of him, because there was a time in his life where it used to just make him angry when people would bring up stuff like the no-show or bringing up things from his past that he obviously wasn't proud of and, didn't want to have to think about and dwell on. And so there was a long period of time where that kind of thing would just make him frustrated. And then he finally got to a point where he was sober and he had accepted, his past for what it was. Yes. Did he make mistakes? He did. Yeah. But it certainly didn't define who he was then or who he was going to be. And so he was finally okay with some of that. So when he and Dolly recorded that and did the video, for those who maybe haven't seen the video, go watch the video. There's a spot where they show that clip that my dad used to get so mad when people would want to show that clip. He had left the bar. Yes, he had been drinking, but because people knew it was him and not just Joe Blow on the street, they called a news radio station, broadcast station, not just the cops, so that when the cops went there to pull him over, they had cameras. And you can see in his face, number one, he was drinking, so he wasn't in the best mood anyway, but he was obviously really put off by the fact someone pulled him over just to get that footage. And he never would have even discussed that, much less been okay with using it in a video up to that point. But because Dad had made so much progress, I was so proud of him for being able to say, yep, that's what I did. And this song is perfect for showing that, because if you listen to the lyrics to that song, I mean, he was basically like, yep, that's what it was. And I love that song. And I think Dolly and him did such an incredible job together. Of course, I love Dolly. I don't think Dolly can do wrong. So, I just thought it was fantastic.
If there was ever a song meant for George Jones, it's that one. Like it and the fact that they turned it into a duet. Like
I know, right?
That song should have been a duet in the first place. And
I agree.
I never thought of it that way until I heard George and Dolly do it. But then listening back at it, it's like, oh my God, how did they miss this? How did somebody back in the day not go to Hank and say, hey, look, we got to get Dolly now, or we've got to get somebody in. The only thing that would have made that better if it would have been George and Tammy.
That would have been so awesome.
That would have been the only thing I could think of as far as song-wise goes that would have been better, because the lyrics are just, it seems like what they lived. It seems like what they lived.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And it is. I definitely love that song. It's just, and when you watch the video with it, it makes it so much more powerful. Kind of like, I think when people hear Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes, it's a great song. But when you see that video with it, it's just, oh, wow, man. That's just, it really gets you in a whole new way.
The second he gets off that bus in that video, oh my, you're like, I know I'm a mega fan anyway, so I'm fangirling out over this anyway. But
I'm a fan too, so it's all good. I'm awfully proud.
It's your dad had the capability of touching you when he sung a song. Like a lot of people sing stuff, but you don't think that they went through it. You don't think that they actually lived it. Like you can't tell by the way that they're singing or whatever. Like you don't believe it. Anything that your dad sung that was just gut wrenching, you think that he lived it. Like, and you could feel it in the song.
Yeah, that's because I think, both he and Mom, but I know what you're talking about for sure with Dad. It's like, for them to really want to cut a song in the first place or sing it, they had to connect to it. It's not like today. Today, a lot of times people are told, this will be your single. And you're like, I hate this song. And for me, and I know for them for sure, you can't make a song really good if you don't somehow connect to it, whether or not it's you personally or your best friend went through this or your sister or your uncle or whatever. If you can't really connect to what's going on in the song, hard to be emotional with that. And you can recognize that instantly when you hear someone being passionate or emotional, sad, happy, whatever it is, and you can actually see it in their face and you can hear it in their voice. There's just a huge difference. And it's like listening to someone do a karaoke version of a song and someone actually singing it as the artist. And that's the difference between emotion and connection with music.
I'll tell you my second favorite part in the show. The first part is when, and they did it perfect in my mind. Whenever my favorite part is whenever George looks at the key rack and she had took all the keys and he realizes that the lawnmower, it's just a look that he gives. It's just I got this. She forgot. He did that so perfectly. But my second favorite part is when they show Tammy riding Stand By Your Man.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful the way they did it. And that's like one of the moments that I feel like that is exactly how it happened. Like it's exactly how. So like the connecting to a song, when you realize it, all of us have had a messed up childhood, or most of us anyway.
Yeah, there's none of us that are so called normal. I'm just
I'm
saying.
not. Yeah. Well, if you are normal, you can go to hell. The way I look at
Yeah,
it,
normal's boring.
I like the messed up people. I love the messed up people. But when you realize that song is actually her life,
Yeah.
and you see the connection. I went back and listened to it like a couple days ago. Well, I guess after that episode come out, because when something hits me like that, I want to go back and listen. When you hear her sing that song and you realize I've heard this song a million times, but this song is real.
Yeah.
It hits you different.
It does. And like there's so many things in the series that I know and remember seeing or watching a video relating to something where it happened. In fact, I shared something on my personal page yesterday. I may go put it on my Facebook fan page because I just thought it was so cool. There's a couple of instances where they show a scene, and I know a lot of people are like, did that really happen? Is this really real? And there was a time in Wembley, it was 1981. My mom and dad were in London. Mom's remarried, dad's, not single anymore. So we'll just say that. And they're on stage and they do their thing where it's time for them to try to do some duets together for the show. And my dad's in the middle of doing their medley of hits. He's doing Golden Ring. And then he just stops it and says, I want to ask you a question. She's like, no, like, oh my gosh, like, what's he doing? Because I can imagine, knowing Mom, I bet there was sheer panic. Like, what is he about to do? And say, tell him what it's going to be. And he's like, do you love him? And she's like, well, I do. Like, what's she supposed to say? Do you know what I'm saying? I'm on stage in front of 80,000 people at Wembley, and I don't know what to do right here. But when I've seen that on YouTube, it's such a painful thing to watch play out, because I know how both of them are trying to entertain yet be honest and real, because they don't have time together on their own to actually talk about anything, because that's just not how it works for people who are divorced. And my dad was really having a moment, and he just said it, which was a lot like him. If he thought it, he didn't worry about the timing, he would just say it. And so I watched them, and they actually were nice enough to let me be a background vocalist in 2 scenes in the series, and this was one of them. And I remember not thinking it was going to be that hard for me just to be standing there mouthing the words to Golden Ring doing harmony, because I've done that a million times. But then watching that play out, even though it wasn't really Mom and Dad, it was such an emotional thing, because I knew how much pain they were in and how much they loved each other. And there's another time when Dad was doing his HBO special, and I sang Daddy Come Home with him there.
What HBO special?
Oh, okay. It was either 80 or 81 also. And it was, I can't remember if it was George Jones, A Little Help from His Friends. I can't remember the title of it, but it was an HBO special that came out where Elvis Costello, Tanya Tucker, my mom, Waylon.
I gotta look this up. I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If you're a big fan, you're going to have to find that. I'm not kidding.
I'm watching it as soon as we get done with this.
You will love it. It's such a great show. And I remember that was the first time I'd ever been on TV, and I didn't know till right before I went on to sing with Dad that I was going to be on TV. And Mom was telling me, as I'm going out there, that they're recording it, blah, blah. And I almost had like a little mini panic attack for a 10-year-old. Well, I think I was 11 then. And I remember looking at her like, Mom, I don't think I can do it. And Mom was always so gentle and sweet. But at that moment, I knew she knew what I needed. And she kind of grabbed me by the shoulders and went, honey, your dad's out there waiting on you. He's about to call your name, and he wants you to sing with him. And this is special for him. So you're going to go out there and sing this song, and it's going to be just fine. It's not going to be anything different than what you normally do, but you're going out there and you're singing with your dad. I was like, okay. And I was so scared. And you can look at my face. I'm like staring at the camera and looking at him. I'm trying to sing. And my dad is being so sweet. He's holding my hand. He's like kissing me on the forehead. He's trying everything he can do to distract me, because he can tell I'm freaking out. But during that show, there's another moment where we introduced, after that end of the song, I introduced my mom to come out. And later, Mom's backstage and she doesn't know it. They're videoing her while he's singing on stage and doing stuff. And holy crap, is it emotional, because you can see she's about to cry backstage. He's singing his butt off, in this emotionally charged song. And there was a lot of stuff that happened that they were able to capture that I was very proud of. But some of those things were so hard to watch play out, just because we know how much they went through and their love for each other.
I've got a buddy named Justin Dukes, who's a hell of a songwriter up in Nashville. And he wrote the prequel 2 golden rings. I'll have to. He went through he got. I'm not gonna say cheated on, but I think. But he was engaged to a girl, and it took him like a year to figure out how to put into words what he wanted to do, and it ends up being like the prequel to Golden Rings. It's called Ring for Sale. And
I'd love to hear that.
I'll send it to you. It hadn't been
Yeah,
released or
please do.
anything.
That'd be
I'll
great.
send. But let me tell you, he's a big George Jones fan, and let me tell you, oh my gosh, it's whenever somebody says Golden Rings, I always have to bring that up. I have to because they have to know. Like when this song, I think when it eventually comes out, it's going to be what makes this kid. And but it's just the whole story and everything behind it. But let me ask you, what was it like for you watching your mom and dad do that stuff, like as a kid, like after they were divorced? And it had to be kind of, it had to be kind of confusing, like to see them still singing the love songs and everything.
Yeah.
I get why they did it as far as business wise goes, but I feel this is just my look and from outside looking in. I think George was always trying to get Tammy back.
Oh, always. And Mom actually for a while, even after they divorced, they still went on dates here and there.
Okay.
To the Possum Holler and hang out with him. Sometimes she'd take me and we'd go sing and hang out with Dad at Possum Holler. And they tried so hard, I think, even after they were divorced to try to make it work. And then I think, life gets in the way and it just didn't happen. And I think, they wanted it to. I know for a fact for me with Mom, about 2 weeks before she died, we had a really good heart to heart. One of those where you wake up and you end up, we're the only ones awake in the house. And we end up for a couple hours just sitting on the couch by the kitchen and just having this really great talk. And one of the things that we talked about was Dad. And she said, in no uncertain terms, that my dad would always be the love of her life and that she would never not be totally and completely in love with him, but that unfortunately, because of the way things were at that time, she had her problems, he had his problems. And she said, and now she said, I look back on that and think maybe if I just hadn't nagged him so much, we made a joke out of it and saying my nagging and his nipping, but she's like, but honestly, I kept wanting to fix it. And she said, you can't fix that. Somebody has to decide to fix that for themselves. And of course, that didn't happen then. And when you have my dad's anxiety with wanting to get away from Nashville, Mom's trying to stay in Nashville to get business done, and it just tore them apart. And everybody wanted them to be torn apart because the unhappy people made much better music that sold more records and made more money for the other people. And I think that was a theme for a long time in the relationship until it just finally completely tore them apart. But she always said Dad would always be the love of her life.
God, it gets me. That gets me. I've always just thought it was the biggest asshole move from the people who were running their careers to make them go back on the road together.
It was horrible.
It had to tear both of them to shreds.
Yeah,
with every word. That's what
Yeah.
It had to. I mean, I don't know. That wouldn't happen today.
No, I mean, like for me, like I think I can remember even as 10 years old when Bobby Braddock wrote Daddy Come Home, and it was just what an incredible writer, period, end of story. And he just knew exactly how to say and word things because they were real things that people felt. And so when I sang Daddy Come Home with Dad, I meant every single word that I sang. I remember being in the studio and just thinking when I sang it, oh, wouldn't it be great if that could just happen? If Dad could just come home and Mom and Dad could be back together and we could all just be happy and live, forever after, that kind of thing, the fairy tale. And so at the very end of that song, you can hear me saying the last Daddy Come Home. And I mean, I was just begging like it, and I hear it now as an adult even and think, man, as a kid, I certainly connected with that song to a very emotional degree. And that's all I wanted so much as a kid was for them to be back together.
That had to be fucking tough. So that's one of the ones I've heard it. I'm not super familiar with it, but I know I've got that vinyl. And I was making sure I did. I thought I did. I was looking it up to make sure I had that vinyl. I'm going to have to listen to you do it as soon as we get done with this. Like the HBO special and
Awesome.
listening to you do that. Like I have to. There's just no way that was easy.
No. And I remember just being so sad, even being at the studio and just not wanting to leave and just wishing they could still, I wanted us all to go home together. Like I didn't want it to be the way it was. And, as a kid, you don't get it. You don't understand. You don't know what's going on. And I know that years and years later, I wrote a song for my dad when we reconciled and started spending time together. And we really started building our relationship, which is the only thing I ever wanted. It meant the world to me that we finally were able to do that. And I wrote a song called You and Me in Time. And it's the same thing in that song. It's like at the very end, he did something just for me. He actually, I don't know if you remember hearing the story or not, but he broke his wrist going to the studio at Keith Stigall's.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and he wasn't able to play guitar on stage for like the next 6 to 8 weeks because he had to have surgery on his wrist. It was a big deal. And from then on, he really never played guitar anymore on stage. It was so funny because he said, I felt so awkward at first, not knowing what to do with my hands because like I've just always played guitar on stage. So he's like, I got a microphone. I felt like, am I supposed to do something with this hand? And he's like, he said it was so weird. It was like I was learning how to sing on stage all over again. But then when he got the guitar back, he said, I realized then I hadn't had any neck or back pain. And he said, and I started playing the guitar on stage again. I thought, yeah, I'll just do without that from now on. But I get away with stories. I'll try to get back to the point. But
no, you tell me as many stories as you want to tell. I'm sitting here looking up You, Me, and Time right now.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, I'm downloading it right now.
Awesome. Well, so we did this song, and we go in together, and we record this song, and he went back to the studio as a surprise for me. To add one little line on the very end. And when he was going up the stairs to Keith's studio, he was looking back talking to Nancy and didn't pay attention. The awning was broken and yawning because it wasn't up high like it usually is. Knocked him backwards. He broke his fall, putting his hand out, which broke his wrist. But he's a trooper. He went on in and did the line before he even went to go, to the doctors and get his wrist looked at. But he added that, I love you, darling, on the end of that song, which I'm happy not think about it for a second, but it was just one of the sweetest things I've ever heard and just absolutely made that song extra special for me. It already was special, but it just really tore at my heartstrings and made me smile.
You can't see behind my glasses right now, but there's tears.
I'm welling up and I'm trying to not do it.
Yeah, as a dad, I know when you say those little things where it comes from. And oh man, that would knock me on my ass. I
mean, like every time I hear that song now, it's like, if you want to get the Kleenex out, I can listen to that and it won't take me but a minute because it just, it's such a special thing that he did for me just to put that on there to let me know that he loved me, and that just meant everything.
I'm scared to listen to it because I got drunk at a show last night and I'm always I'm a little hungover. And
or a little extra emotional, maybe.
Yeah, that's what every time I get a hangover, not every day, that makes it sound bad. Every time I get a hangover, I'm extra emotional. I'm a crybaby anyway. I'm really tender.
Oh, me too.
I am tenderhearted as hell. And you telling that story, it's like shit. I
used to joke and say that I was tougher at one time because I was a registered nurse for years, and you kind of had to be able to compartmentalize what you're doing at the time and not think about the situation. And most of the time I was pretty good at doing that. But I'm all grown up. So I'm just saying, I cry at the drop of a hat. I mean, literally the last couple of years, it's like anything and everything just makes me so emotional. And I think it's because I've learned how special and how important just those kind of things are. Family and the people that we love are by far more important than anything else we can ever imagine. Where we live or what kind of car we drive or what kind of things we have or our career or any of that, none of that crap matters. It's crap. But those moments we have with the people that we love the most, and I'm telling you, I can, it doesn't even have to be people I know. I see something emotional between people on TV. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I catch myself all the time being like, why the hell am I getting choked up about this? Like, how many mental health issues do I have? Like,
I think that's a great thing, though. It just means that you have a good heart.
My dad's the same way. And it was several years ago. I was in high school, so it's been like almost 20 years now. But there was a Hallmark commercial that came on during the Super Bowl one year. And it was this little boy who was a special education kid, and he wasn't getting any Valentine's Day or cards or whatever. And this pretty little blonde girl goes up and puts a Valentine's Day card in his bag. And the look on the little boy's face, me and my dad both at a Super Bowl party just break down into tears and are swollen.
Awesome.
And everybody at the Super Bowl party is like, what is wrong with you two? And it's like, that didn't get y'all. That didn't get y'all. That just knocked me on my ass.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm like that with a lot of commercials and stuff. There's some really good ones during the Super Bowl too. Just saying, there's some really good laugh your butt off ones and cry your eyes out ones. So
as I'm sitting here looking at your songs on iTunes, I see the Apartment Number 9 with Mark Chestnut, and I cannot wait to hear that. I'm a big Mark Chestnut fan, and
big. And you know what? The fact that they asked me to do that just absolutely made my day, my life, my everything. Because like you said, I'm a huge fan of his anyway, because he's the real deal, and love his voice. And I hate to say it, and forgive me, Dad, for saying this out loud. Paycheck, my dad, my mom, there's so many people who've recorded that song other than my mom, because of course that has a special place in my heart, but Mark Chestnut's got the best version out there.
Really?
I mean, it's like and this before me, like the version, just him alone I've always loved it. So when they asked me to do that, I was excited. And I will tell you this one thing, it was so funny. He wasn't there when I was recording. I had to slip into the studio real quick and go out. And the producer, I'm trying to remember what part of the song it was, but something when you say ever, and so I'm harmonizing with them. So I said Elver, because that's what Dad said. That's that East Texas Elver, So, and it's funny because they didn't have to tell me afterwards. I could see the big smile on his face, and he punched in. He goes, "I'm so happy I didn't have to say anything because Mark's from the same place where your dad was from, so he says it like him, and I didn't even have to say you can't say ever." You got to say Elver. So
yeah, you just mentioned, like, I've got more vinyls of your dad and Johnny Paycheck. Like, I love some Johnny Paycheck. When I went to your dad's grave, and then Paycheck's is right there in front of his, I heard a story that I know a lot of artists die broke or whatever. Your dad kind of took care of Paycheck, didn't he, towards the end of it?
He had no idea until the very end that Paycheck was in such bad shape. He just didn't. And like he was mortified. Like he was so upset that he didn't know sooner. I think Dad it broke his heart. And so, I mean, I know that he paid for Paycheck's funeral and stuff. I'm not trying to bring that up to say whatever. I think my dad felt so bad that he didn't know sooner and couldn't have done more to help his friend, because he adored Johnny. And I think he saw a lot of himself in Johnny. And let's be honest, Johnny Paycheck and Ron Gaddis are really the only two who could sing with my dad, harmonizing better than anybody on the planet. They're the only ones who could really do it and just do it perfectly, and such a great job. And he just is so talented in his own right, besides all that. But Dad and he definitely had a special connection.
Paycheck to me is probably the most underrated country singer.
Underrated.
Everybody knows Old Violin, but I'm telling you, like, at my funeral, when my day comes, Outlaw's Prayer has to be played at my funeral. And there was this moment. When I went to your dad's grave. I'm serious. I sat there for probably an hour and had a couple whiskey drinks. So I was sitting there. It was just I just felt like if you're there, you have to, like there was nobody else around that day or whatever. And I ended up putting my phone in my back pocket and put your dad on shuffle and everything. And I didn't know that Paycheck was buried there. So I just started walking around, and I looking at everything else, and I saw Paycheck's thing. And then somebody had told me after about him paying and Paycheck going out broke and everything. And let me tell you, there's something. It's like him looking over him, and it's still where he's buried at and everything. And let me tell you, that got me. That got me. And there's something really beautiful about it.
Well, Dad was a very emotional person. He didn't necessarily show those emotions all the time in front of just anybody, but he definitely was. And there were some times, especially like with Johnny. I mean, that was a hard time for him. But my dad did not mind telling his friends that he loved them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a contradiction to anything else you'd ever imagine about him being an older guy from Texas. But, there's pictures of him giving Merle and Johnny Cash kisses on the cheek or on the forehead or something. And that's just because he was cool with who he was and he knew it wasn't anything else. He just wanted his friends to know how much he loved them. And he didn't mind telling them and showing them that. And there's some really cute, funny pictures of them like that, too, that I just adore because I think it's such a sweet picture of such good friends. And it means the world to see him having friendship with people like that, because in the business, it's hard to have real friendships. You've got those acquaintances. Everybody puts their ambassador out there. Nobody's really themselves. They're just trying to do their PR networking thing. And so when you got genuine friendships, like with Johnny Paycheck or with Johnny Cash or Waylon or with these other people like that, there was just a handful of people that he really adored more than anything.
Yeah, I've got a buddy named Cody Wiggins who's like my best friend growing up. We're 9 days apart and everything. He's never been to Nashville, but he's a huge George fan. And we're gonna go in a couple months whenever he gets time. We're gonna go to your dad's grave because he saw that I went and got pissed at me because I didn't wait on him. I didn't wait on him. But that's how me and him are. We're very affectionate towards each other because we've just known each other our whole lives and love each other. But you talk about crying. I'm scared of when we go. I'm scared of when we actually get to that grave together.
Let me know so I can take stock and Kleenex before you head out there.
You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to because it's gonna be emotional. Have you ever watched the series on Showtime? It's called Tales from the Tour Bus.
I have.
Okay.
There's some good stuff in there. There's some stuff in there that really made me mad. That wasn't all that accurate and kind of.
That's what I was gonna ask you because some of it seemed a little. They kind of took liberty with it.
Oh, they did, and like to be honest, it kind of upset me a little bit in the sense that they actually even interviewed me for like 2 whole days. We were in studios. They were interviewing me, and they interviewed a guy named Gerald Murray, who was one of my dad's booking agents and managers for a long time. One of the few people who was actually really a good guy in that sense. He really did try to take care of my dad and cared about him a lot. And they barely put any of that in there at all because those stories were funny, happy stories about cool and fun, good things that dad or mom did. And that's not what they were going for. They were going for the outrageous, crazy, horrible, awful stuff, which I wasn't going to sit there and trash my dad. Like I just wasn't going to do that. And I didn't realize that's what it was till the series comes out. And, you talk about Johnny Paycheck, his son, Jonathan, he's actually a great singer also. He's been a military man and he's just now starting to make music and he's very talented. But he and I had a conversation off of Facebook one day, we've never met in real life because he's never lived like in Nashville or in that area where I knew a lot of other people, but we talk a lot on Facebook and so he was talking about, how'd you feel about that? I was like, pretty much thought it was crap. Like that one part, in particular, he's like, I wasn't real thrilled about it either. But there were some people that they did interview. Basically, my dad and Johnny are responsible for a lot of their career. And yet they, could not wait to say the meanest, nastiest, trashiest things about both of them. Did both of them do stupid, ridiculous, crazy crap? Yeah, absolutely. Not trying to deny that they didn't do some stupid things. But there was one thing in particular that they said, they tried to claim that they took my dad to rehab. Nobody took my dad to rehab. My dad actually was taken to rehab once without his consent. That wasn't with them. But then they tried to say that the doctor gave him an IQ test and that it was like, I don't know, 62 or something.
I remember that. I
was like, oh my God, I was trying not to scream and break my TV because I'm like, seriously, what you're saying is a man who is intelligent enough to have written the songs that he's written and has been the person and human being that he has. You're trying to say he's in the bottom 2% for intelligence on the planet.
Why
would you say that?
If he scored that low, it's because he wanted to.
That's what I'm saying. If that even happened, which I don't believe it did.
Yeah.
If it happened, it would be because dad was pissed off and he was just not answering the questions because he was angry that he was put in that situation. But for them to insinuate my dad was an idiot really made me angry.
There's
So
no way he was.
no,
There's no way
no,
your dad was.
no,
You don't write the stuff that he wrote.
no.
Yeah, he's complex. Yes. Idiot.
Yeah,
Hell no.
right.
Hell no.
No, most definitely not. So like I said, that kind of that put a bad taste in my mouth for it. But like the second episode that they did wasn't as bad. It had some funny stuff in it, but
Yeah.
I think they were really looking for just the worst thing they could find to talk about. And it's a shame because that whole idea could be a cool thing. My dad, we actually talked to him about it at one point. Nancy had to have back surgery and she was in surgery for a long time. We're all sitting around talking and he got to telling road stories about things that had happened on the bus. And we're in stitches. We're all just rolling on the floor, listening to him tell some of these funny things that had happened. And somebody, I can't remember now who it was, they said something to Dad about, you should write a book, not your book, because that's already been done, but like you should write a book about, being on the tour bus, things that happen. He goes, oh man, he said, if I did that, he said, I wouldn't have any friends. He said, I can't do that. I'd make everybody in the industry mad. He's like, but, it was funny stuff though. And just hearing him tell it made it even that much better.
Yeah, I know that it's impossible to hear those stories now, but let me tell you, I would imagine, but I think it was a different day and age back then too. You could get away with stuff then that you can't get away with now, especially because of social media and all that. But I would have loved to have heard some of the stuff that you've got told over years, because there's just got to be so much. And because I know he was wild, and I like wild. Don't get me wrong, but wild usually leads to some really great stories.
Well, and that's the thing. Like there were definitely some funny things and then some scary, crazy things. And that's why everybody was like, man, like these are great. You should write them down. He's like, yeah, well, I still want to keep my friends and I don't want to,
where they talk about it, because I haven't heard, I kind of saw in the George and Tammy thing on Showtime that they referenced it, but the duck thing. Did he?
Yeah, I mean, almost for a year, Dad talked like a duck, and he also had a character he called the old man.
The old
man, yeah, and that was just literally the closest thing to a mental break anyone could have. Other people who didn't know what was going on would find it cute and funny and hilarious. It wasn't. I mean, it got to the point where it wasn't even when he was drinking; it was all the time. Like he was doing drugs and alcohol, and he was so messed up mentally because he was so hurt and upset with everything happening in his life, and he felt like he was out of control. And when that happened, he just became all these other people. I mean, I really feel like he was the closest to having a major mental breakdown than he ever was when all that was going on.
That's what I've thought since I've heard about it. I thought that's exactly what it like. Oh shit, where'd you go? Oh. It wouldn't be my show if there wasn't a technical difficulty on somebody's end.
Yeah.
It's okay. It happens. But no, that's what I thought the entire time. Like, I know they kind of made a joke out of it on the Tales from the Tour Bus thing. Yeah. But it just seemed like it was a mental break.
It was. Yeah. I mean, and for them to make jokes about it too. I mean, I know when you hear someone talk like Donald Duck, that instantly makes you want to think that's cute and funny. But when you realize the circumstances surrounding it, not at all. And it was a really horrible time in my dad's life, but he was just going through so much.
I told you before whenever we started that I thought it was funny that Tammy was buried inside at the funeral. I mean, not the funeral, but at the I don't know what you call it, the graveyard. Yeah. And your dad was outside, and I felt like it was her kicking his ass out one more time.
She'd find that hilarious.
It tickled me. Like I didn't realize she was buried there. I hadn't went. That's my next stop when I go, because there were so many people there that day. Inside, I didn't go in. I've got like a whole list of.
Well, and she's not too far away from Little Jimmy Dickens, and
really?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, ma'am, I could talk to you all day. I'm not gonna hold you up, but I just want to tell you, this has been my favorite show that I've done.
Oh,
I'm such a huge fan of your family and you that that I'm just so happy that they're finally getting their story told.
Me too.
And I hope that there's so many people that does not realize just how amazing your parents were, and they go look up their music. Because I don't think, as good as that show is, I don't think that you're going to get just country music lovers that watch it. I think you're going to,
you're right.
I think you're going to end up getting people that our younger generation that just know He Stopped Loving Her Today or Stand By Your Man, and they go listen to the whole catalog of both of them.
I hope so. I mean, most definitely, that's one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to out of this. I hope that people will discover both of their catalogs of music and will just dive into it and learn everything they can about them, because that would just make me so happy.
Tomorrow, I guess Sunday night is the last episode, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're on Paramount Plus with the Showtime bundle, it started airing as of yesterday on Friday. But on Sunday, if it's Showtime only, then you have to wait for it for Sunday.
I didn't realize it was already out. I've got it on Paramount Plus.
So you can go watch it. Yeah,
you literally between the HBO special listening to the Time song that you told me about a while ago, and that my day's done. Like I'm not going to do anything today.
You're gonna be George Jonesing all day. It'll be good.
That's almost every day. That's almost every day. I just got new stuff now. But ma'am, I just want to tell you, as a country music lover, this has been my favorite. I wish I could sit here and tell you how many times I've listened to your dad's song, how many times that I've needed his music, not just wanted to listen to it, but needed to hear one of his songs. I've drank more and cried more to George Jones than any other artist. Keith Whitley's a close second, but your dad, and this is just this has been a really, and now I'm not trying to downplay how amazing your mother was. It's just your dad to me is the king of country music. He's the king of music, and one day I'm gonna have a George Jones tattoo. I just don't know what it's gonna be. I want to get one of his lyrics, but there's so many. There's so many lines that I want to get from him. I could fill up my whole body.
I got Dad's Martin guitar on the top of my arm. So,
okay.
Yep.
All right. So when I bought my first guitar back here, this Martin, I bought the one that was as close to George's as I could get. That's exactly why I have that Martin.
Well, he sure loved the Martin guitars. He did. He loved them.
Well,
I appreciate you having me so much. I really do. And like I said, this series has been a dream of ours for so long. We thought at times it wouldn't happen. So I just hope people will watch it and see whatever they can see out of it. You know what I mean? They were human beings. They weren't perfect, but they did the best they could, and they loved each other. And that's important to get out of there. So thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Any of you guys ever interested in hanging out and talking? We play video games, but we also do chats. We do all kind of crazy things on my Facebook page. So come see me, hang out, talk to me in person over there.
Yeah, tell them your social media links, like Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Where they can find you.
I have a Facebook music fan page under Georgette Jones. So if you go look for me there, Georgette Jones Lennon on Instagram, because I am married and have been for over a decade to my sweet husband. So if you'll come check us out there, I'm on Twitter too. We're just starting there because I've never been a Twitter girl. I've just been trying really hard to do what my duty as a person doing business, to do what they tell me I have to do. But otherwise, I'm mostly on Facebook all the time. So much. We do lots of content there. So definitely come check us out. Come talk to us and hang out. We're going to actually do a chat later on this evening and just sit around and talk about the series and show some pictures and stuff. So come see us.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Hope you have a good day.
Yes, ma'am. And thank each and every one of y'all for listening to the Josh Terry podcast. We'll catch you next time.
The Venture X card from Capital One gives you premium travel benefits, perfect for seeing Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. Presented by Capital One. Ooh, I do love her. Earn 5 times miles on flights and 10 times miles on hotels through Capital One Travel.
Enjoy your stay in Suite 13.
Whoa, 13? That's Taylor's lucky number. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided in service by affiliates and third-party insurers.